be going through the GCMU install, and we'll be setting it up with CI-Logon on local machine here. So it's on. It's sharing. Let's stop. Okay. All right, is it working now? Yeah. Okay, all right. Let's get started. So the first thing is I'll be using two pages from the Globus support pages. They're both linked in the agenda. First is the instructions on how to install Globus Connect Multi User, and then the second is a little addendum that has specifics on configuring it with CI-Logon. So here I have a machine, UC3 data. It has HDFS file system that I'd like to share. And so I'll get started. First, I will install the yum repo file.
Hey, Suchandra, can you make the font bigger on your text window so it's hard to read over the Adobe Connect?
All right.
Thanks.
Okay. Let me just make the window larger as well. Okay. How's about this?
You could even go a little bit bigger font-wise. That's good. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So first thing I'll do is install the RPM with the repository information. There's if you go to the GlobusOnline page and click on this link here, there's a variety of RPMs with the appropriate repository information for a few operating systems or Red Hat distributions, as well as some Debian-based systems. So let's do the installation. So the repository is now installed. If there's one thing to note, if you're using something that's not Red Hat 5.5 or 6.1, you may need to change your configuration and change this release for here to 6.1 or 5.5, depending on the system. It's just that the directories don't have, the directories for, say, 6.6, 6.2, or so on, or 5.8 aren't there. So you'll get an error if you're using something that's not Red Hat or Scientific Linux 5.5 or 6.1. All right. After that, there's actually one RPM you can install using yum that will grab all of the Globus Connect Multi User packages. So you just do a yum install Globus Connect Multi User. It'll grab everything that's needed. Next, you will modify the Globus Connect Multi User in /etc. Here, the key points are the name. This you should modify and set up with the appropriate name. I'll be using an account, the UC3 account. So I'll be calling this endpoint UC3-UC3 data. Next, I'll be setting the public attribute to true because I want to let other people access this endpoint. The default directory you can just leave as is. Next thing, for CI-Logon, you need to make sure that this fetch credential from relay is set to true, and that the identity method here is set to CI-Logon, and the CI-Logon identity provider is set to the appropriate value. Here it's University of Chicago, since I'll be using EOC as the backend servers. And then once that's done, I will be I'll be running this little script here, Globus Connect Multi User Setup. And for this, you'll have to give it a GlobusOnline username. I've already set an account called UC3 to handle this, to administer this endpoint. So I'll have that, and then I will get the account password. And then after about a minute or two, it should be done. And next, I will log in to GlobusOnline. I'll go to Manage Endpoints and click on the administered by me. And as you notice, I now have the UC3 data endpoint. Here, I'm just verifying the information is correct. I want it to be public. The endpoint name is correct. And it's using CI-Logon, and this other information is correct. All right, so now I will go just do a test by logging using a different account, my personal account. I will go to Manage Endpoints here. Okay, here UC3 data is set up, and I will activate this. I've already authenticated with UFC CI-Logon, so it actually will activate immediately, but so I can now do a transfer. As you can see, it picks up and logs in, so I will pick some files that are already set up on the HDFS file system. And I will start the transfer. And the transfers are now in progress and should start and complete at, so it's starting, and at some point in about 4 or 5 minutes it will complete. So that's about it for the installation. It's fairly simple, thanks to Yum and the RPMs being in a Yum repo. It's just a few commands and then modifying 1 or 2 files, and that's it. Any questions, comments?
So this is Steve. Maybe a couple other features I'll mention with respect to Globus Connect Multi User for those of you setting this up. Some other options you can do in addition to what you just saw is you can also, if you want, right now what he showed you is setting it up on a single grid FTP server for that endpoint. There's instructions also at the site for some other more advanced options. So for example, you can install it on multiple servers with the same endpoint. So then GlobusOnline can do things like load balance and failover between those grid FTP servers. And all you basically have to do for that is essentially just copy the .conf file that you used for that Globus Connect Multi User between the 2 machines, and it'll kind of just do all the right things on the setup on each of them. Other options is if you don't have, if you're, where the install that you just saw there is particularly good, is if the cluster you're running or your local identity domain is tied to your campus identity domain, but there's some settings where people don't have that situation, in which case instead of using the CI-Logon, the default behavior it'll just tie it to your local campus domain, and you'll get the authentication like you saw when I went to NERSC earlier. So lots of good options for making Globus Connect Multi User work with whatever your setup is locally.
All right. Any other comments, questions?
would y'all like to see out there? Any particular areas you want us to drill in a bit more on? I can show you, some new other areas if anything you want me to go more solely on or explain in more detail. Or configuration options against Globus Connect Multi User. There's a whole bunch of them in there. Or it's all crystal clear and we've done our job. Like that one transfer stalled for some reason, isn't it?
It's ongoing. I'm transferring 20 gigabytes.
So okay.
It takes about a minute or two to transfer both files over.
Got it. Why don't you go in the event log? I'm curious what it's showing.
All right.
Yep. Right. So it's dropping some basically restart markers, whether progress markers, so that if it were to fail, it should pick up where it left off then.
Yeah, and I get some pretty good performance between these two hosts. I think when I was doing some tests earlier, I was getting about 2.7 gigabits per second, so it's certainly performant.
And Suchandra, can you repeat which are the supported platforms so where people could add?
Okay, so I guess I had a question about supported platforms. So if you go to this link right here, it is on the Globus Connect install page. There's pretty much anything Red Hat based or CentOS based, so RHEL 4, 5, 6 compatible, and Fedora 15 to 18, and I believe there's also some support for a few versions of the Debian installs as well.
Yeah, basically all those .deb ones are mostly the last 5 or 6 Ubuntu releases. So yeah, we got most of those in there. And then there should be a SLES one in there somewhere as well. I think that's one of the RPMs.
Yeah, there's SLES 11.
Yep. So if there's other versions of platforms that you have that you want us to add, with each release, we're working on a 5.2.5 release here soon where we'll add, I think there's a new version of Ubuntu at least out there and maybe something else, so we'll be adding those to the repo soon. But if there's specific versions that you'd like to see, just let us know and we can add them to our automated build system and test system and get them out there.
Any question from? Okay, if there is no other question, Suchandra or Steve, would you like to add some final remark or suggestion?
Yeah, I mean, my main suggestion is give it a try, and if you run into any issues, Suchandra showed you that support.globusonline.org site. There's a lot of good materials there, from facts to documentation, user discussion forums, new feature request forums, stuff like that. So I encourage you to try it and look there if you have questions, and don't hesitate to submit support tickets, either through that site or by emailing support@GlobusOnline with questions. We're happy to help you out. That's what we do here. Otherwise, give it a try and let us know how it goes. And we love feedback, good, bad, ugly. We're happy to hear it all.